everyone, welcome to the channel. So today Beau DeMayo, who was the showrunner for X-Men 97, made some statements about the MCU and their upcoming mutant saga, and since he was involved so heavily with X-Men 97, people are really interested in what he's been saying. So he's expressed his concerns about the upcoming films and how they're going to integrate the X-Men characters, and I think that he said a lot of things that I've also been concerned with, and many others have been as well. Just that while the MCU has had major success over the last couple of decades, they have been mismanaging some things, and I think that that led to a decline in their movies and shows, just with how far they stretched themselves. Like between all the Disney Plus shows and all the movies, now we're coming up on like 40 MCU movies with these next few films, and hopefully they can get back on track. So let's see what he's been saying. A follower asked me if I had faith in Marvel Studios' mutant saga, and I clicked away and lost the message, so hopefully they see this. But also I get asked this a lot, so I wanted to make a larger post that may piss some of you off. I'm sorry in advance. First, the X-Men are so much bigger than one creative, myself included. Would I have loved to write, direct, steer the live-action films? Of course, but I have great faith that there are amazing artists out there who have amazing visions and stories to tell with the X-Men. Now, do I have faith in the MCU's mutant saga? Short answer, no, not yet. And let me walk through why so you don't think I'm just being a hater. I do think that that's an important point. You want criticism to be as constructive as possible, otherwise it's just not very productive. And I do think that the MCU just has a lot of haters at this point who want to see it fail no matter what, which is a shame. I think that the MCU still has a lot of potential, and I would personally like to see them do their best. But I guess let's get back on track and see what else he has to say. X-Men requires planning, deep planning, to pull them off and make them resonate. You also have to be very mindful of how you're laying out their story, and the way in which audiences will experience the story. You also need to suppress your ego to make it your own, and focus on meeting the mutants on their terms, which means deeply respecting their canon and the emotional investment that fans have to that canon. And I do personally like that attitude of trying to be humble in your creative work, especially when working with characters who have so much history and so much fan investment. And I think that it is great that he wants to be, mindful and respectful of that history and be true to the comics and the source material. Although admittedly there were choices in the source material itself that I didn't particularly care for. Like for example, Rogue and Magneto. I never really liked that ship. And just because something's from the comics doesn't mean that it can't just stay in the comics. Just saying. But anyway, I'm off topic. With this in mind, this is the start of Marvel's Cinematic Universe's mutant saga. A retcon and musical sting in Miss Marvel that she's now somehow a mutant. That's true, they did that in the comics as well, and it did feel pretty random and just not really handled well. Because originally she was an Inhuman, but the MCU tried to make the Inhumans a thing and it didn't really work out, in my opinion. So now they're bringing in the X-Men and mutants, especially now that they have the actual ability to do that thanks to the rights. But still, it was just a really clunky way to incorporate the mutants into Ms. Marvel's story. But I guess it's here now, whether we like it or not. So it is what it is. Literally, our first intro to the X-Men in the MCU is not one of decades worth of mutants, but a YA retcon that Kevin forced onto the franchise to make it his own and out the MCU spin. And it is a tease and retcon that they still have not paid off. Yeah, I would say that that's fair. We're gonna have to see if that plays out for them. So I guess time will tell. But anyway, to the above, for decades, X-Men fans have waited for teenage mutants like Jubilee and Kitty Pryde to get their justice and due in film. Kevin knows this, and just like Fox shoved a teenage retcon Rogue down our throats, Kevin and Marvel are shocked con down our throats when far more interesting mutants would do. And having been in the room with these guys, it is absolutely all ego. Even having a newly cast Jubilee show up at the end of Ms. Marvel to recruit her would have been better than the instantly forgettable tag we got. Yeah, I also think that that would have been a better way of incorporating the X-Men into the MCU. MCU. Like maybe if we had gotten a film between Fantastic Four and the new Avengers movie, trying to like ease us into this new stage, and having Kitty and Jubilee be, you know, maybe that gateway. Because right now, like I said, I do think that it has been a bit clunky, and it's kind of like how he goes on here talking about, you know, them kind of using fan service as a way to entice the audience. A weird nostalgia cameo of Professor X and Doctor Strange 2 that used the animated series Sting, so again fan service, where Kevin thought it'd be fresh and cool to see the revered leader and activist visionary of the X-Men's entire creed get brutally murdered again. I do feel like that came off as just subverting expectations, I guess, you know, having Wanda face down not only Professor X, but also, you know, some of the toughest and strongest of the Marvel Universe character-wise, like Reed Richards, who was also played by John Krasinski, which was a popular fan cast, only for them to all just be brutally murdered. Kind of felt like a rug pull in my opinion, because, you know, we did have all this fan service with Professor X and John Krasinski, and, you know, just a little anticlimactic, but I digress. He goes on to say, next, Monica Rambeau somehow finding herself transported back to meet Beast from the worst X-Men movie ever made. Add that these two characters have zero history or irony to having met one another in the same way that, say, Nick Fury coming to meet Tony Stark had in Phase 1. All the tags in Phase 1 begged a clear, exciting story, the creation of the Avengers. What the hell does Beast and Monica tease? Nothing. It's just a desperate play to make us care. Want a better tag? What if the film ended with Monica or Carol waking up to meet Anna Paquin's Rogue? Now that does what the MCU Phase 1 tags did. Yeah, I guess at this point the tags kind of feel like tradition rather than really setting things up. But I guess they were trying to just, you know, continue to introduce the X-Men Fox characters to the MCU and, you know, try to at least get that in people's minds. Then he says the retires of Wolverine and Deadpool from the Fox franchise that the MCU and Kevin had zero to do with, to tell a fan-pandering story of Reddit wish lists that seemed to say farewell to the Fox universe again, and yet again the MCU being like Fox in this lazy reliance on Wolverine as the face of the X-Men. Well, to be fair, they did that in the comics too, like they would have comics where Wolverine is on the cover, even though he doesn't actually appear in the comic itself. So I guess I can't really blame Fox and the MCU for using Wolverine in the same way, but at least he's actually in the films, so there's that. A contrived plot MacGuffin of adamantium in Captain America Brave New World that has amounted to nothing, and begs timeline questions where I guess Ms. Marvel is a mutant before Wolverine entered Weapon X. So, like I said, it's all pretty clunky, and I think that they're just relying pretty heavily on fan service and wanting things to be recognizable without actually thinking all these, you know, Easter eggs and plot points through. So now we get continuity errors, and so now we end up with continuity errors and plot holes, which can be pretty frustrating for fans. But he ends it off by saying, lastly, all the Fox characters we thought were gone and dead are being brought out yet again to manufacture artificial interest and distract from Kevin and Marvel Studios' decade-long flailing of frequent failures. Well, to be fair, a lot of their recent movies do have very positive scores when it comes to audience reception. It is true that Marvel hasn't been the juggernaut they used to be, and there are a lot of factors regarding that, you know, I'm not going to get into right now, but I'm still rooting for them. He does reiterate again in this follow-up post, which is also very long actually, you know, saying that he's not trying to be a hater. He's just saying what I think a lot of people are saying, you know, the incorporation of the X-Men just doesn't feel like it's as tight as it needs to be. It seems like Marvel is aware that there are issues with the MCU, but instead of really trying to iron out those issues, they're just turning to fan service and pandering, which I'm admittedly not too thrilled by, even if I am excited to see the Fox characters again. But, you know, that's basically what Marvel's banking on. But, you know, I'm still gonna hope for the best, and we'll see where this goes. But those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you agree with DeMayo? Do you think he's off base? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Voltron, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geist, Jay Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Todd McCaffrey, Omni Fair, Cavalcoj, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwined Boot 301, Griffin of Might, Frankie Camarillo, Datadyne Executive, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, Daunter, G-Rock, and Chaos Jumper. Thank you for the support, and if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.